Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? Hope you're having a great day. Ready for some new drama from askalawyer? Let's go to the first one, about OP's entitled wife, who demands OP buys his stepdaughter a car because he bought one for his daughter. Well, OP's daughter did something to deserve it, while OP's wife claims that stepdaughter deserves it because she was spoiled by her biological father and now needs the same treatment from OP. Crazy. Listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights on the matter. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Before my daughter, Christina, currently 19 female, started high school, I made her a deal that if she kept above a 3.9 GPA for her freshman through junior year, I would buy her a car for up to $20,000 to have her senior year, on condition that if her GPA dipped below a 3.9, I would take it away. She kept a 4.0 throughout high school, so I let her pick out a car before senior year. During her sophomore year, I met my now wife, Jenny, now 40 female, and her daughter, Emily, 17 female. Emily started her senior year a couple days ago, and a few days ago she texted me asking when I was going to take her to look at cars. This took me by surprise, as I didn't realize she expected a car. She has a 2.7 GPA and spends more time curating her Instagram than doing her homework. I explained to her that Christina received her car as a reward for good grades, not as a given. I later felt bad because I guess I didn't give her the same incentive that I gave Christina, and I told her that if she could get a 3.9 GPA with her senior year grades and get into an accredited college or university, I would let her pick out a car upon graduation. I thought this was a fair deal, or even unfair towards Christina, since I made her keep a 3.9 for all 4 years of high school. But Jenny pulled me aside after Emily went to school and told me that I was being unfair, since Emily had different circumstances than Christina. For background, Jenny's ex-husband and Emily's bio dad was a very wealthy man who spoiled the crap out of her. Everything she wanted, all she had to do was ask for the first 12 years of her life. She didn't try in school because her dad promised he would get her into any college she wanted and give her a job at his company afterwards. Then, when Emily was 12, her dad was arrested for serious tax fraud. Essentially, he is in prison now, and Jenny had some money of her own, but nothing compared to the life of luxury they were both used to. I think Emily is very hurt by what happened, and she also hasn't had the chance to develop a work ethic. I told Jenny that I think my only wrongdoing was not helping Emily develop a work ethic sooner, and that my hope is that she rises to the occasion, cleans up her act, and gets the car. I also said I would do everything I could to help Emily research colleges and perfect her application, but Jenny wasn't having it. She and Emily both have been giving me the cold shoulder the past couple of days and still think I'm treating Emily unfairly. I really don't know what to do. I want to give Emily a goal that is challenging but attainable, but at the same time, I don't want to put a strain on my relationship with my family. Well, what can I say? OP's wife and stepdaughter sound very entitled. I think OP was generous enough to offer to buy his stepdaughter a car if she improves her grades. But looks like OP's wife and stepdaughter wants it now, as all spoiled people. OP is not giving his daughter a car because she's his biological child. He's giving it to her because she earned it, and OP expects the same from his stepdaughter, which I think is the right thing to do. Her being spoiled prior to OP's arrival in her life has absolutely nothing to do with OP. OP needs to stand his ground. And now let's hear if the community agrees with me. JSCT Mav says, "Not the a-hole. You are amazingly generous to make this offer to Emily, a person you have only known for a few short years. The conditions are absolutely fair and reasonable by any measure. No one is owed a car." Jenny is way off base here and is being an a-hole for demanding this. She is undermining her own argument. Her solution to Emily not having developed a good work ethic is to give her a car instead of developing a good work ethic? No. Full stop. I'd keep the car offer on the table as a take it or leave it. If Jenny is more focused on spoiling her daughter and trying to make you the bad guy here, you should take a very hard look at your relationship with her. She looks very bad in this light. Reddit DK2 says, "Not the a-hole. Your biological daughter was rewarded for her hard work. Your stepdaughter wants the reward without the work. Your daughter will resent you if you give in on this. Your stepdaughter will resent you, without cause, if you don't. Do the right thing." Kachalkar says, "Wait, you met Emily and her mom a couple of years ago? And her mom expects you to fork over the cost of a car just because?" No, not the a-hole. You offered a deal far more lenient than the deal you offered Christina, It absolutely would be unfair to Christina to get Emily a car just because, life took a U-turn on her. It's Jenny's responsibility to provide a car for her daughter. Emily's circumstances have nothing to do with it. That is not your mess to fix. Frankly, it's generous of you to even offer to buy a car for someone who entered your life only a couple of years ago. My husband, 31 male, and I, 29 female, got married civilly last year and will be having our religious ceremony and reception in October of this year. Here's the issue. My father is coming from overseas to come to my wedding and walk me down the aisle. He's insisting on bringing his son, 9 male, with him for almost 2 months. I've asked him not to for many reasons. For some background, my parents are still legally married but separated, and he expects to bring his son, who is not my mother's child, to stay with my mom in the house that is still in his name. Second off, this child was conceived while my father was having an affair in our home country, and nobody knew about the kid until my dad surprised us one day with a picture of him. Basically, my mom was ambushed and was expected to deal with it because she is financially dependent on my father. Now, I have met the kids, and I have no problem with my half-siblings at all. They're kids, for duck's sake. I mean, I know he is my half-brother, but it's weird because he isn't really a brother to me, if that makes sense. He lives in another country, and I didn't grow up with him, but I truly harbor no ill feelings for the kids. Children are innocent and should never have to bear the sins of their parents. But my mom always told my father, "Do whatever you want, but don't bring your crap to my door." This is, in my opinion, him bringing the crap to the door, then smearing it on the door and smashing the rest in my mom's face. Why should my mom have to deal with her husband's love child, who we barely know, running around at her daughter's wedding? Yes, it is me and my husband's day, but she is my mom and the spine that holds my life together. In my opinion, it's her day too, just in a different sense. I stand with my mom because my dad's being a tool. Quite frankly, in the month leading up to the wedding, I will be bloody busy with last-minute stuff and have no time to entertain a kid. But I would be lying if I didn't say my number one reason is the blatant disrespect of my mother, who is an awesome mom and quite possibly the best grandmother on the face of the earth. I've tried so hard to kindly explain to my father why his kid shouldn't come, and I have highlighted all the cons for my half-brother, RE, missing school, no kids to play with, different language and country, and my dad won't be able to properly care for him. Again, old immigrant male mentality. I love my father dearly, but he is thick-headed and wants to do whatever the hell he wants. So am I the a-hole for giving my father the ultimatum of either come alone or don't come and mom will walk me down the aisle? Edit. I have met my half-brother before and talked to him and his siblings on the phone, video chat often. He lives in another country, so I keep whatever relationship I can with a 7-hour time difference. Again, I have nothing against him, and he knows who I am. This isn't some random kid I've never seen before. Wow, it's just not about having the kid at the wedding. For me, it's more about wanting to stay in the same house as OP's mom for 2 months. Even if he went alone, I'm sure OP's mom is not exactly looking forward to sharing a house with him for that long. In my opinion, OP needs to put her foot down. Her mom doesn't deserve that, and OP's dad is being totally entitled. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Princess of Perky says, "Not the a-hole. Honestly, why not have your mom walk you down the aisle to begin with? Your father isn't exactly the shining example of the sanctity of marriage." Marianda 666 says, "Not the a-hole. Your father doesn't get to decide who attends your wedding, and he certainly doesn't get to decide whom your mother takes into her home as a house guest. Stop explaining things in such a kind manner, and just tell your father no. No, you will not be bringing my half-brother to my wedding. No, you will not stress out my mother by forcing her to attend to him and house him. Either come alone or don't come at all." Mr. Spread'em says, "Not the a-hole. Your father seems to expect everyone to deal with his crap because your mom is dependent on him. This time, you're in control of this event, which is your wedding. Put your foot down and stand up for your mother. Your mother will also feel the pain 10 times more with her friends and family around, knowing this child is roaming around near her at her daughter's wedding, and your mother can't do anything about it. I understand children are innocent, etc., but the pain will always be there as a reminder of the betrayal. Stand your ground." My 50 male dad just passed away, and as a result, I inherited his set of businesses in the food and hospitality industry. I also recently got married, and unfortunately, I feel like among my staff, there's been some hostility towards my wife. My cousin's son, who interned with me over the summer, told me he heard over the grapevine that employees would often say that my parents were wonderful, generous people, and that they loved my parents, they liked me, but hated my new wife, and have called her not a good person multiple times. One of our family's businesses is a local boutique hotel. The restaurant there functions really well for people needing a meeting space. My wife is from Europe, where most of her family is, and doesn't work, so most of her social life is structured around mom groups at the preschool our son attends. She and her group of friends haven't gotten together in a long time, and were thinking of getting together to plan a spring event for the preschool. She's been upset about how busy I've been settling my dad's remaining legal affairs, so I told her what's mine is hers, and to feel free to invite her friends over and treat them. I was gone for the weekend, and it turns out she invited her friends to the restaurant at the hotel after it closed, and asked the employees who were there to help her in serving drinks and desserts. More friends came than she expected, so she needed some extra help, but mostly she was the one doing all the hosting. After her mom friends left, she was pulled aside by the manager and a few stray waiters and waitresses who were still there. The manager said that he believed that the waitstaff deserved a tip for staying. My wife disagreed, saying that she didn't ask for all of them to stay, and that in Europe, no waiters would ever pull someone aside to demand a tip, and yelled at them for being rude, and said they'd be hearing from me. When I came into work on Monday, the manager asked to talk to me, and said he assumed my wife told me. My wife was asleep when I got in on Sunday, and still asleep when I went to work. He relayed the whole incident, and said he stands by his decision to demand a tip alongside the rest of the staff who stayed after. He said that he has worked here for 35 years, and that if this was another customer, he'd think twice about letting them come in ever again. I think his long history with my parents emboldens him, but I was furious in the moment about him implying that he would ban my wife from the restaurant we owned. I snapped in the moment and said I would not tolerate him or the staff ambushing my wife like that ever again, nor him trying to ban my wife from a place that is hers. I reminded him that my wife currently isn't used to tipping, and that I'd talk to her, but wouldn't tolerate this disrespect. Am I the a-hole? Well, OP's hardworking staff should most definitely be paid for their extra time spent working, and I think additional tipping would be appropriate as well. OP's new wife sounds pretty entitled. Demonic Symphony says, "You're the a-hole. Your wife made them work after closing with no pay. That's freaking illegal, dude. Pay your employees for your wife's duck-up and apologize, and probably have her apologize too." Wind River 7 says, "You're the a-hole. Good luck replacing your entire staff. European or not, your wife is living in America, and food service is handled differently. Not only did she have staff stay overtime with undetermined number of guests, she then refused to tip them. And there's a big difference between hosting and serving food and drinks, then clean up. Keep this up and kiss your restaurant business goodbye." Lemon and Lime 28776 says, "Info. Were those who stayed to help out paid overtime? As a European here, UK born and bred, tipping might not be normal, although damn, it would be a kind gesture. And ultimately, while your wife is from Europe, she's now living in a country where tipping is the social etiquette, and she needs to learn this. But overtime payment for every 15 minutes worked over their assigned shift would be. Also, is she using her influence to now implement other European customs, such as paid vacation of 30 days per year, and paid sick pay, and covering the employee's health insurance herself, as a way to implement free healthcare while she's there? Just curious how far she wants to go with bringing European cultural norms into the workplace of the business you guys own." I can't help feeling like an a-hole after a recent conversation with my granddad, my father's father. Background: I went no contact with my father 2 years ago after trying my hardest to rebuild a relationship that he kept destroying. I refused to talk to him, as he's done unforgivable things to my mother and sister, but mostly me. My granddad wasn't involved in my early life because he was in the Air Force stationed in Germany. After he retired from the Air Force and moved back to my state, he did everything he could to have a relationship with his grandchildren. Recently, he's had some health issues. He contracted virus in March of this year, and it just exacerbated his illness. As he's getting older and more fragile, he wants his family reunited more than ever. He kept nitpicking me about reuniting with my dad. I filled him in on the extent of the damage my dad did. Granddad was understandably mad and didn't push further, until August when he found out I was pregnant. I called my granddad to share the news, and he was so happy, but immediately wanted me to tell my dad. I had to once again remind him that I had no intention on having a relationship with him. He tried to give me the whole, he's a changed man, he's really trying to be different, he misses you, etc. But my dad is hugely manipulative, and I had to go to therapy after I went no contact for the damage he did. Now, every conversation we have, he always brings up my dad. I get he wants his family together, but that doesn't cancel the pain and hurt his son caused. Here's where the argument happened. 2 days ago, I found out the gender of my baby. I started calling family to share the news with them. My sister warned me that our dad was in my state visiting. So when I called Granddad, I started the conversation with, "Hey Granddad, are you alone?" He said yes. So I tell him I'm having a boy. He then says, "Thanks for letting us know." I immediately said, "Who is us?" He tells me my dad and his wife were in the car with him, and then they immediately start talking to me through the car speakerphone. My dad said, "You didn't even tell your own father about his grandson?" I honestly got anxiety just hearing his voice and tensed up at him immediately berating me. I told my grandfather that I felt ambushed. He responded with, "It's time for you two to get over this crap and start acting like a family." I yelled at him and said I wasn't okay with the way he lied to me, and if this was to be expected out of future interactions, then I'm cutting him off as well. They all started screaming at me over the phone, so I hung up and haven't spoke to him since. Part of me can't help feeling like the a-hole since my grandfather has been mostly great, and I feel like my dad might have manipulated him and took advantage of me and Granddad's relationship. Help. Kalkiki says, "Not the a-hole, and now we see where your father learned his manipulation tactics." G-Vine Protege says, "Not the a-hole. No reason for that to have happened, and you even prefaced with, 'Are you alone?' You were lied to, and for selfish reasons. Your grandfather makes his own choices. He should respect that you are allowed to make yours." Luckiest Unlucky Girl 42 says, "Not the a-hole. Your grandfather is acting as though he will only believe you about the things your father did to you and your family if your dad ever does something bad to him. Your grandfather is the a-hole here for not having faith in your judgment. I would absolutely cut him off for that behavior until your dad alienates him. Believe me, someone who engages in toxic behavior like this will always find a way." My wife, 35 female, and I, 35 male, have been together for 10 years, married 5. We grew up completely different. She's the only child of a surgeon father. Her mother died when she was 2, and it was her and her father for most of her life. He remarried when she was 17. He's wealthy, sent her to private school, paid for her college, and when we met a decade ago, he was still paying her rent, even though she had a solid job. I come from a poor family, but we both have pretty good jobs and make around the same amount of money now. She is such a daddy's girl, and it's been affecting our relationship. Anytime she wants or needs something, she goes to her dad first, and sometimes it's about things I could help with. I work in tech, and back when we started dating, she was starting grad school, and she asked her dad what laptop should I get. I told her I actually work in the field, which she already knew, and could easily answer that and get her what she needs, and she just kind of shrugged. Okay, fine. These little things have happened throughout the last decade, but there have been bigger issues recently. Last year, she decided she needs a new car. I disagreed. Her car is fine, and she works from home and barely drives. She was adamant, though. About a month later, she tells me she's getting a new car. I told her we need to make these decisions together, and we share finances, and this is a major purchase. She says, "Oh, my dad is buying it. He said we can just sell mine and get some extra money." I told her it's kind of ridiculous to ask her dad to buy her a brand new car when she has a perfectly good one, and we don't need it anyways. She got upset and said it's not that big of a deal, and her dad doesn't mind, and that the car wasn't that expensive anyways. She said I'm overreacting, and that it's okay for her dad to do nice things for her. She got a brand new 2022 car, completely paid for by her dad, and we sold her old one. Now we are buying a new house. We finally narrowed it down to 2 options. We were discussing it last week, and my wife says, "Oh, I don't think House A is good. My dad said he thinks we could do a lot better in our budget." Before she talked to her dad, she loved House A. So I got a bit frustrated and said it didn't matter what her dad thought because this is our family's home and he won't be living there. She got angry. We started arguing. We both said mean things. I called her a spoiled brat and said she needed to grow up, and she got upset and slept in the guest room, and it has been a few days and we have barely spoken. She said I was so mean to her. Burning Bunghole says, "You're the a-hole. You just sound super insecure about her father. Take a moment to reflect. You're on Reddit complaining she asked her dad for advice on a laptop. You're jealous, that's all there is to it, and it's pathetic. Instead of worrying about her relationship with her father and calling her names, why aren't you using rich father-in-law to your advantage? Like you actually started a fight over her getting a new car neither of you had to pay for. Just insane. Sherlock27 says, "You're the a-hole. You need marriage counseling to deal with both your issues. This is a great way to lose your marriage otherwise. Deal with your issues instead of hurting your wife. You show nothing but mild contempt for your wife here." SJW7 says, "You're the a-hole. It sounds like you want her to take your advice on everything and not her dad's. It might be that she grew up not wanting anything and seemingly still doesn't, but you have been with her for a long time, so it's not as though you haven't been aware of it. If he is willing to fund stuff, then just enjoy it, as most people would be quite happy with someone buying them a new car."